Hey guys, it's GirlGotGame. Welcome to London Detective Mysteria, where we are starting off John Lupin, or if you like, Jean Lupin's route, depending on which side of him you see in any particular occasion. He is in the running for my favorite, so we'll see how his route goes and whether he can secure that #1 spot. But I'm starting off a little bit into the game. We're in the middle of Marple's route. There's a choice coming up that I have never picked up to this point, so I thought we'd start here. But I'm going to skip through most things. I am going to play through his introductory episode all the way through though, because I feel he deserves some respect. So, so we're going to do that. But we're going to do this, and then there's a scene later with Marple when he's going to that doctor. I'm going to play through that too, and then we'll skip ahead. Anyway, first this choice. Certainly. I'll take the tableware. Ah! A hard push from behind came right as I was carrying Marple's plates.
Oh! Ow, 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 ow!
I nearly lost my balance, but was able to right myself before dropping anything. Not so for the one who bumped into me. Sprawled on the floor was a handsome boy with a beautiful head of blonde hair. Though he wore a correct uniform, his spectacles had tilted off from the fall. You know, I'm sure I've seen this from him before. Yeah, of course, there were a couple of scenes with Lupin earlier. The dancing scene and the snake scene, but they're so small, I decided to skip them. So, yeah.
Sorry, Miss Whiteley.
There's our beautiful boy. He was positively frantic, much more than anyone else in his position would have been.
I don't know how I tripped over the corner of the desk. Are you all right?
How shall I answer? Usually it's right as rain, but concern for my future boo, compels me to ask. Hey. But what about you? You're the one on the floor. I reached out my hand to help him.
Me? I trip over a lot, so it's all right. I know it was an accident, but you're such a delicate girl, and I've made a real fool of myself. What have I done?
I think you're a little more delicate than I am.
What? How could I be?
Lupin, did you fall and make a mess of things again? Those glasses are much too strong for you, aren't they?
Marple wasted no time with permissions, instead reaching straight for his spectacles.
Please! These are expensive, and I'm quite fond of them, so you can't take them.
I'm only doing this for your benefit. What if you were to fall down the stairs from the second floor and break that fragile neck of yours? Knowing you, you would surely die.
I'll be very careful not to do that.
You needn't worry at all, because I'll catch you if that happens. Aw, so gallant, Emily. Or Valiant.
Oh, you're so valiant. I've always admired women like you. Strong, dependable, and kind.
Emily? You are a daughter of House Whiteley, yes? You weren't raised chasing wolves around the countryside.
Your imagination is more wild than my childhood, but it's true I was raised in the countryside. I only returned to London recently.
Really? I only came to London when I enrolled in the academy. Did I ever say my name? It's John Lupin.
I don't believe so, so I'm glad you did so now. It's a pleasure, Lupin.
And the same to you, Miss Whiteley. Well then, till next time.
Lupin adjusted himself before returning to his seat. We had a very nice introduction going on there. Alright. So now we can skip ahead quite a bit until we go see the doctor. The main reason I want to do the Lupin doctor scene is it's been so long since I've done it, I don't remember what he had to say about it. I want to speak to Holmes. I'm trying to kind of divvy stuff between Holmes and Watson so I don't get stuck on one of their routes. I've been doing some Watson stuff, especially with the choices in the beginning, so it's around here. We'll just skip ahead. I don't want to skip too far. Oh, dash it. I'm not a puppy. Ah, here we go. As we began to give more serious thought to the issue, we ran unexpectedly into someone we knew.
Why, hello, Miss Whiteley. Miss Marple. What brings you here?
Lupin! We could ask you the same. Though there were no classes today, he still wore his academy uniform. Suspicious.
This is a clinic, isn't it? So I came to see my doctor.
Are you sick, then?
I feel nauseous and my stomach hurts. The clinic here is close to the academy, so it's a convenient place to visit whenever I have a problem. I was already close by since I had to go to the library, so I thought I might as well come here.
His symptoms are similar to Angie's. How do you feel?
Much better after my consultation with Dr. Fow.
If you don't mind my asking, what medicine did he prescribe?
My medicine? I don't mind. A moment, please.
Lupin retrieved a small brown bottle from his pocket. Oh right, I forgot about this label. Its label read Hange Shashinto and Saiko Keshito. It's the same one!
You're right! It's just like Angie's!
Lupin, are you absolutely certain you feel better? Have you ever felt faint after taking that?
I'm not sure I understand. Why are you so worried about this? And I've been feeling wonderful. It's a miracle how much better I've felt since taking that medicine.
The answer took us both by surprise.
Whenever Dr. Fow prescribes medicine, he gives each of his patients their own bottle. I always have this one with me when I go to him.
Then Angelica has her own personal bottle as well.
I still haven't a clue as to what his motives would be, but if there's even a slight possibility, we must investigate.
Let's look at the contents of her bottle. Even if it turns out to be nothing, we'll have narrowed down the scope of our work. By the way, Lupin, what made you so sick in the first place?
Since I'm a student and live alone, my landlady invited me and a few other students to her flat for a homemade meal. I began to feel nauseous after dinner. It turned out to be the mushrooms from the mountains she used in her cooking.
You didn't make a mess of things again, did you? Incur her wrath in some way?
I did no such thing! No! I wasn't the only one to fall ill. She and the other students did too. It was a disaster.
Oh, we should run along and see Angie. Thank you, Lupin. Stay well.
Oh, thank you, I suppose.
You're welcome, Boo. Okay, actually, before I continue skipping and get lost. Just looking at my notes. Okay, I think that's all the Lupin stuff until his introductory chapter. So I will bring you guys in when we do that. Jean Lupin, Gentleman Burglar. Alright, we are here at his introductory episode, so let's get into it. It was set to be a blissful morning. In contrast to Lady London's days of fickle weather, often outfitted by a heavy gloom of grey clouds and rain, her mood today was handsome. She wore a clear blue gown, adorned herself with a great many birds which twittered and flittered about freely, and gave herself a natural blush with the glowing sun. I celebrated this sight with the Ceylon tea Pendleton had brewed after breakfast. Its sweetness did well to stimulate my senses as I sipped away, still half dreaming. And then I saw the front page. Rather, I saw the massive photograph of a necklace too beautiful for description occupying its center. Gentleman thief Jean Lupin speaks. Odile's eye to be his next target. I've heard of him. He is Arsène Lupin's protégé, is he not?
So he is. His flair for thievery is no less magnificent than that of whom he succeeds.
I recall his signature being to leave a queen from a pack of playing cards at the scene of the crime.
If I may, I find such behavior in a country ruled by Her Majesty despicable.
You may, and I agree. Besides that, I can't imagine what shop would sell only the queens. A deck with even one card missing is like tea that's lost its flavor.
You present an intriguing observation, my lady. There are likely no shops that sell individual playing cards, so it could be he procures them directly from a factory where they're produced. Though it is difficult to believe a thief of his status would risk being so easily traced.
Believing anything at the scene of the crime is the mark of one who is either supremely confident or foolish.
It's little wonder he's so confident. His reputation is as such that whatever he declares he'll steal will assuredly become his.
Then about the next thing he's claiming, the one here on the front page, what kind of necklace is it?
It pleases me to see that you've gained an interest in jewelry. Sadly, this topic must be seated for another time. You don't want to be late for school.
The Whitechapel murderers were no longer the main point of discussion at the academy. Indeed, no one could resist the charisma brought about by the man in the paper.
That necklace is being exhibited at the Queen's House along Trafalgar Road, right? I didn't know till this morning that it has an especially rare diamond in it. What a shame something so valuable is going to be stolen. Watson, pessimism doesn't suit you. The whole affair is a headache. Everyone is blabbering on and on about the news. And for what?
I rather think it odd you, of all people, would feign disinterest.
There's no use hiding it. You're as keen on this as everyone else. I'll certainly never view it with the kind of interest you have, nor do I want to.
An impassioned debate was underway amongst our schoolmates. They saw a gentleman thief and found him a fascinating study. Yet Holmes, whose foul features invited no contenders, made himself unavailable for participation. Actually, before I do what I'm gonna do, let's look at our status. Alright, I managed to get you guys pretty even. That's good. And Lupin got a little bit with you. Good, good. We're horrible detectives, though. Are you hungry, Holmes? Were you forced to skip breakfast after oversleeping?
Not a chance. I'm not you.
But your hair is so messy today. It seems you've got a bit of bed hair.
Ha! You noticed, Emily! Holmes was up playing his violin well into the night. He said he was playing so well, in fact, that he couldn't bring himself to stop. Because of that, wouldn't you know it, he overslept and had only oatmeal. Our poor landlady puts her heart into cooking us a nice breakfast, too. That's enough talk about my sleeping habits. I meant that I'm disappointed by how everyone lauds a common criminal who would steal for his own gain. Now, Holmes, see here. He may steal treasure, but he never takes lives. He's a criminal in a technical sense, but there is an admirable quality to him that cannot be dismissed.
I wouldn't say I admire him, but he takes the gentleman thief concept to a degree that is deserving of some applause.
No matter what pretty words he or anyone else uses to gloss over the facts, he's nothing more than a thief, a criminal, an outlaw. I'll never understand how anyone studying to be a detective can tolerate his felonious activities.
Holmes now had the entire class at his attention.
I can't despise the gentleman thief, but what Holmes said has merit. How do you feel, Emily?
Me? Well... I gathered my thoughts before responding. I mean, he's only committing crimes to fight crime. Did that go into Lupin's bottle of ink? It didn't, but it didn't seem to go anywhere else. Do I have to click one more before I can see it? Or does he not care that much? If he only steals from suspected criminals as a way to punish evil, I suppose we can't rightly regard him as a petty thief. Alright, now let's check. Otherwise, ow. Okay, ow.
Precisely! He's no saint, but more a villain on the side of good. He's different to the others. He's a damn good bloke is what he is.
What's the proper turn of phrase in this case? An eye for a tooth for an eye. Is that it?
Emily, I'm almost sure that's not it. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Others might say diamonds can only be cut by diamonds. Whichever you choose, the two of you are too soft on him. He is a criminal to be arrested, not a man worthy of praise.
Others were engaged, excited, and grateful for discussion, and in turn Holmes's nose crinkled at the bridge with disapproval. It was clear it would remain this way.
I wonder if we'll have a lot of Lupin-Holmes rivalry from Lupin's point of view this time. That could be interesting.
You sound confident. If your opinion on criminals is so black and white, then do you think you can arrest Lupin as easily as you've arrested your criminals in the past?
I walk whatever path I feel is just. If someone were to block that path, then I'll have that person arrested. It doesn't matter who. Only the Academy's best detective, to rival the latest household word, I suppose. You've been on the front page a number of times yourself. That's right. No matter the skill of the gentleman thief, he'll never measure up to the great detective.
Thus the topic was shifted to placing bets on who would best whom.
It sounds as though all of London is curious who would win in a standoff between juniors.
And you, Holmes, you've said already you would win, correct?
Forgive me, but I have no intention of playing entertainer for the masses.
Holmes picked up the newspaper on the table nearby.
A more productive chat would focus on the latest problem to arise. Thanks to his actions, there are mimics who would pilfer under the guise of being gentlemanly.
Watson caught the paper Holmes tossed and flipped through it.
Fancy that! There's been an influx of robberies these days. My God! Look at all the thefts in London alone! They used to only take up half a page, but now there's more than enough for 2 from end to end. I trust not what others say, but what I find for myself. All the attention may be going to Lupin Jr.'s devilry, but underneath that we have an array of other, more serious crimes taking place. If you aren't aware of them, then you are unqualified to be a detective. And what a pity that is.
The classroom grew heavy with doubt. Holmes, you shouldn't go around making that frightful face. If he wanted to scold others so badly, then it was time someone scolded him in turn.
Miss Whiteley, do you take issue with my opinion?
I don't, no. But if you say things so directly, people will misunderstand your intent. What she meant to say was that we should learn to see through hyperboles from the press. As detectives, we have a duty to verify if information presented is true or false by our own research. If that is indeed what you mean, then I can't agree more.
You're fantastic, Emily. They might start calling you the great interpreter if you keep this up. How'd you like to become his assistant too? It's rather tough for me to soften all his sarcasm alone. I don't need 2 assistants, and I said nothing sarcastic.
You're right, but that won't matter if how you say the truth is taken the wrong way. The classroom door opened right at that moment. Good morning, Mr. Mackenzie.
Good morning, class. Please, take your seats. As a reminder to everyone, whilst today's front page is a good read, discussion during class is not allowed. Mr. Watson, reading the paper is not allowed either. It's time to put it away.
It's not my paper.
After that, lessons began as they normally would. Yet Holmes was still quite grim as he sat in his assigned seat. What's the matter with him? He seems so distracted. The boy detective was normally focused on the blackboard at the front of the room, but today his eyes were fixed to his notes. Something must be on his mind.
3. Miss Whiteley!
Yes, sir!
Do you know the answer?
Dash it! I haven't listened to a word he said. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention.
Are you troubled with something? I appreciate that you're quiet, but I would find myself more depressed if it's because your mind is elsewhere.
For Mr. Mackenzie to find himself depressed was kind. He looked as though all the happiness in the world had left him. And to again be kind in my own words, he never seemed to have much happiness to begin with.
I'm really very sorry, sir.
Then, since you're sitting next to her, would you care to answer, Holmes?
Yes, sir. Queen Elizabeth I remained unwed for the entirety of her life. Her father was Henry VIII, and her mother Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was initially a lady-in-waiting to Henry VIII's first wife. Then she later was to become his second.
Correct. Have a seat.
Thank you, sir. Are you lost in thought in the middle of class, Miss Whiteley?
But you weren't any different, were you?
Yes, except I happen to be clever. I could ponder 1,000 things and still keep my ears pricked for a lecture. Is that not par for the course for a student?
Par for the course, of course, of course. I feel like such a fool now. I was so rightly ashamed that I wanted to hide away from my peers and vanish. I was grateful that nothing else that would cause me shame happened for the rest of the day. Holmes approached me after school.
Miss Whiteley, Watson and I are to visit a mansion that was robbed the other day. We received a request from the master yesterday. He wants us on the case.
Do you think it's from one of those mimicking the gentleman thief?
Most likely. From what we've heard, the victim, Ernest Phelps, had his late grandmother's prized earrings stolen. If you wish to prove your worth as a detective, then come with us. What's this? Holmes? Asking out a lady? Why, I didn't know you had it in you! No truer mysteries ever begged to be solved than this one! Watson. It was a joke, Holmes! I only say it, Emily, because he's been very, very curious about you. She's no detective from where I'm standing. Speaking plainly, the method used to catch the Queen's cat relied more on luck than it did true detective work.
But we did catch her, so we did what we were tasked as detectives.
I fail to understand why you only care for the results. If you think yourself so qualified, why not prove it by solving the next case with your brain? Solving every case with intuitive rubbish will only help you so many times.
His tone intended no bite, but the sting of fangs bared still lingered. Fair enough. And I would be delighted to join you two in solving the case. We shall make for an unstoppable team, I'm sure. In fact, a proverb is brought to mind that applies to this very scenario. Your eyes see more than your forehead.
Is that a real proverb? 4 eyes see more than 2.
I suppose I've heard it said in that way as well.
Miss Whiteley, you understood me when I said to solve this next one using your brain, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. And I will be using it expertly to ease the mind of our dear victim, you see. We can't wait another minute. Let's be off.
That's a good thought. A detective's work is more than solving the case, but tending to those who've suffered from evil as well. You swallow pretty words far too easily, Watson. Oh, but right. Then you'll be investigating this copycat crime, won't you, Emily?
Well, yes. Is there a problem with that, Watson? You seem very out of sorts all of a sudden. Watson expressed a nervousness, a sudden flush of anxiety that reflected doubt. In me? Or in inviting me? It was too brief and too vague to know for certain.
Never mind. It was silly. And, Holmes, what about that message from Lupin Jr.? Would it not be more prudent to go to the Queen's house and prevent him from stealing the necklace? I'd rather you not concern yourself with someone merely copying his actions. I will go to the Queen's house in the evening, Watson. Something has compelled me, and compelled me irresistibly, to investigate this copycat first. Are the stolen earrings really as important? You're certain? In a sense. It is speculative on my part, but I feel... Bah. It's merely an observation of mine. If you feel more drawn to the Queen's house case at present, then by all means go. I just won't be going with you. I'm not drawn to it. I more said that for you, since you aren't the most fond of Lupin Jr. I don't want you to distract yourself with other cases till his is all but dismissed. I would never dismiss a case over personal feelings. To do so would be to abandon a client, and I, for one, count myself amongst professionals. Yet you aren't professional enough to hide your disgust. It's all been a bit childish, you know. What is it about him that struck a nerve? Is it that you're both successors? That he never is compared to his dad the way you are? Oh! Yes! That's it! That's it exactly! Have I hit it?
You're completely off. Holmes isn't the type to compare himself to others. Holmes?
We're wasting time. We'd best get a move on.
Holmes, wait!
Before we go, Emily, you should tell Pendleton where you're going. We wouldn't want him to worry.
Oh yes, I'd completely forgotten about him.
That poor man. He must spend most of his nights sick with worry because of how often you forget him.
Not most of his nights. A tenth of them, perhaps. But really, I try to tell him where I'm going more often than not.
A tenth is still more than enough, Emily.
You could eat two shoes, Watson. I made a brief return to the mansion, after which I accompanied Holmes and Watson to Mr. Phelps's home. Pendleton was not available, which was unfortunate given my recent banter with Watson, but I did leave a message with Alicia regarding my whereabouts to pass along to him. This was not to be my last engagement with misfortune for the day, however.
How? This is odd. It should be around here. Watson, as you have no doubt noticed, we passed through here earlier.
Oh no! You haven't got us lost, have you?
My word. I know where it is. Leave it to me. This is the way, cried a certain someone. That they did, and with so much vigor, too. Sorry, you two.
No need to be glum, dear. Everyone makes mistakes.
Aw, you're so pure-hearted about it that it almost makes me feel worse.
My carriage passed through this area on the way to the academy, but one misdirection was all it had taken for London to turn foreign. To be lost within a city that should have been familiar gave me a dreadful unease.
I didn't mean for this to happen, Emily. I was so fired up when I learned you were joining us, but I ended up doing more harm than good with it.
My unease for the situation was minimal, and done away with entirely. When I saw how he felt about having been the cause, a protective instinct was roused within me. I should say that no harm was done at all. Taking a leisurely stroll like this is good for the legs. And exercise demands something sweet as a reward. Perhaps I'll ask Pendleton for some dessert after the case is solved.
With so much spirit, you extend your hand to help Miss Whiteley, and yet he's still not alleviated, and you're still a glutton.
But I am helping. Knowing that dessert is waiting is a wonderful alleviator.
Duly noted. Now, once we go back to the main street, we can right ourselves again. Holmes! I couldn't ask for better friends.
Isn't that Lupin over there? Lupin! And it was. Oh, the sight of a familiar face when lost was freedom for the soul. I waved for his attention.
Well, hello. What brings you around here? Oh no! Ow!
Very much in his character, Lupin tripped and tumbled to the ground immediately upon seeing us. You didn't twist anything, did you? Perhaps I should have thought better of crying out so suddenly.
Oh, that hurt. Please, I'm fine, Miss Whiteley. Really. See? My spectacles are safe and sound.
Good to hear. If those are safe, then surely there isn't a scratch on you. How do those 2 points even connect?
I meant to ask this right away, but is there anything that brings you here?
Yes, as it happens. And does it ever make us glad to see you, Lupin? We've been making our way toward the mansion belonging to a certain gentleman named Mr. Phelps, you see. Trying to, rather. One might say a mansion isn't hard to find, but they've never had to find his. Though I suppose they might also say we're lost.
Phelps? Might this be Mr. Ernest Phelps?
It is. Do you know him?
I know of him, and where he lives. His home is just at the corner, where this street meets Oxford Street.
You're quite familiar with the area, Lupin.
It's a coincidence. I know it from when I've lost my way before. Are you quite alright now? I've not done anything suspicious. You won't miss it, I'm sure. Good day.
Wait, Lupin!
Watson desperately held Lupin by the shoulder.
Are you really so content with leaving us to get lost again? What if we were to fall victim to some criminal mastermind? Would you do that to a fellow schoolmate? Take us there, please. Once I've been shown the way, I won't forget it.
But your case has nothing to do with me. Bother, this always seems to happen to me.
Watson, though he was in the position of beggar, kept his grip and tugged at Lupin's arm, bringing his image closer to that of a hooligan badgering an innocent boy to tears.
All I wanted to do was
It was the Queen's house, correct? Though I see you were denied entry.
Huh?
Lupin's mouth hung agape.
How did you know?
Simple observation can do wonders. See that white powder at the tips of your boots? Gypsum, most likely. That is used exclusively in the floors of a select few marble buildings in London, with the historic Queen's house being one of them. Now, I noticed no such powder was present during lessons. Yet all of this can be set aside for the obvious. The Queen's house is located on Trafalgar Road, and where have we met? Why, along that very road.
But that doesn't explain how you know he could not enter the Queen's house.
Doesn't explain, or did you simply not consider the obvious? No ordinary citizen could enter now due to the police guarding it against our gentleman thief. You had all that just by looking at the tips of his boots. I didn't know you observed him so.
Indeed. It certainly comes as a surprise to me.
Don't misinterpret my actions. Human observation is essential to proper reasoning and analysis. There isn't any particular reason for a man of such exceptional maladroitness to stand out, other than his enrollment in the detective's course, whilst possessing a ring from Her Majesty, which is more often dropped on the ground than securely on his finger. No reason at all.
My goodness. I'm a terrible, terrible mess.
No, you're being too harsh. He doesn't drop his ring because he wants to. And since he's found it every time it's been dropped, he's more than proven his worth as a detective.
Miss Whiteley.
A good detective can't go round solving cases he's made himself. He's still the one at fault.
Not you too, Watson.
It's kind of you to defend me, but they're right.
Here's something that might bring you some cheer. You couldn't enter the Queen's house alone, but were you to become the fourth in our investigations, then they would surely permit you entry.
Why? I've already decided to go home.
You forget, my friend, that we're in need of a guide. So come, show us the way.
Wait! Watson!
My apologies for this, Lupin, but do come with us for a while.
Why me?
Watson, ever merry at his victory, had wrapped his arm around Lupin's shoulders and forced them forwards to a distractingly bold walk. Holmes and I kept to something more appropriate as we followed. It was in this manner, this circumstance, this half-nervous, half-pleased air that we four came to be the ones to investigate the case of the stolen earrings.